John Meadows is a world-class bodybuilding coach. He's now become a great football coach. He's an entrepreneur with different type of supplementation, online courses. He's been at Swiss so many times, and I really appreciate all the years that he's come and, shared all his different knowledge. And, it's just fantastic to have him here to give his wisdom. So let me bring John on here. John, thank you so much for being part of Swiss 2021. I'm really, really happy that you're here, really grateful. And I've always cherished your authenticity, your transparency as far as bodybuilding. Like, you're one of the few people that actually stepped up when, we did the steroid panel and talked about different things, as far as the truth, as far as that, you still have to train hard, you still have to diet. And yet there was that elephant in the room that, we went after in 2016, 2018. And I know you've done some different sessions on that. But I mean, your knowledge, your understanding, and your ability to get people into peak shape is just incredible. And you were mentioning before that you had a number of people go to Olympia and you got 2 first places and 2 second places, which is unbelievable. I mean, that's just testament of your great knowledge and coaching. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. And honestly, I remember when I did my first Swiss, and I remember when you handed me a check to present, I remember thinking, I should be paying you. Like, this is an honor to be a part of this. Like, you are a pioneer in an industry. I don't want to say our industry, because it's much bigger. Everything you do, you're a true pioneer. You're loved by everybody. So the pleasure is all mine, Ken.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you give us a little bit of a biography as far as, how you got through and to where you are right now, a little bit of your adventure?
Well, I have kind of a crazy background. I'll give you kind of the short story of it, or we could be here for hours. I was one of those guys that I opened up a muscle magazine and I saw pictures of Lee Haney from the 1985 Mr. Olympia. And I could tell you the top 10. I was actually with one of your buddies, Milo Sarchev, this weekend. And
wow.
we were telling stories, and I said, here was my top 10. Here was the top 10 at the 85 Olympia. And I ran down the top 10. And he was like, you remember that? And I was like, oh, yeah. That was the year that got me into bodybuilding when I was 13 years old. So when I was young, at 13 years old, I competed in my first contest at 13 years old. Now, my kids are 12, and I can't imagine them doing a bodybuilding contest next year. Like, that's crazy. So I was crazy from the start. Like, I wanted to be a bodybuilder only because I love the sport. I was in a situation where I just loved the sport. Nobody was picking on me. I wasn't trying to bully people. Nobody was bullying me. I wasn't too skinny. I wasn't too fat. I was just a normal kid. And I just loved bodybuilding. And I dedicated my life to it, a good portion of my life. Eventually, I figured out there wasn't a whole lot of money in bodybuilding initially, and I went to work in the corporate world. I eventually did very well at JP Morgan Chase. At one point, I was running their largest projects in the company. Had a really good corporate career, and the whole time I was coaching people on the side. I had, typically 30 to 40 clients in addition to doing that full time. And I transitioned out of that in 2012 and just went straight into coaching in our industry, opened up my website. I've probably wrote more training programs than anybody in the industry. I probably wrote 40 to 50 really, really detailed programs in the last 11 years. In fact, Dave Tate and I just put our first joint one out there a couple months ago, and it's done really, really well. So I've always enjoyed the training part and thinking through training and sequencing exercises and how do you go hard but not hurt yourself. How do you go really hard? How do you know when you're going too hard? Like, the training aspect has always been fascinating to me. I love it. I love training. I love talking about training. So that's been a big part of my life. I opened a supplement company 4 years ago, Granite Supplements. We doubled in size last year. I wouldn't call it a large company. I wouldn't call it a small company. It's a medium-sized company. We've done very well. And most recently, Ken, I've started coaching football. Football is a passion of mine. My kids have been playing now. This will be their 4th year. They're 12 years old, going into 7th grade. I'm happy to say the team I coached last year won a championship here. So
congrats.
We have a lot of fun, man. The kids are great. People don't give kids enough credit for what they can learn, how fast they can learn it, and what they can do. And, I like to really challenge them, and I like to really push them and And when you do that, you give them a chance to grow, and you can see them grow. And, from month 1 to month 2 to month 3, they're different kids. They're totally different. And it's amazing. And then their parents see that and they're like, wow, I didn't know my kid could do that. But so coaching is a joy of mine. I love it. I love specifically working at that junior high kind of level for now. I'm an offensive coordinator. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, it's just amazing that you've done so much, but you've also integrated a lot of different aspects. Like, you went in from coaching bodybuilding into coaching football, and especially, educating. And I think the big thing with bodybuilding and even in powerlifting is that it's a character development. What you look like on stage is one thing, but the lessons that you learn in the gym, as far as not giving up, showing up, the resilience, the discipline, the focus, the camaraderie, and to be able to put your mind to something and get it done, regardless if you win or lose. It's always nice to win, but it's still really important as far as learning that. And now you're able to give that to the kids, which is, I think, just so amazing. One of the things that I'm really interested in is that how do you do online coaching properly? I think it's one of the most complicated things, and people don't give it enough respect. There are people out there that do the cut and paste, and everyone gets the same program. I know you do detailed programs based on who it is, their age, how they respond. So what are some of the strategies that some of these personal trainers and strength coaches could learn from you as far as building proper programming?
Well, I think there's some really basic things to start with, very basic, kind of 101 stuff. One of them is a good questionnaire. For example, are you allergic to any kind of food? Are you allergic to any foods? Well, you're allergic to, eggs. Okay, well, I'm probably not going to put eggs in your diet. What kind of foods do you like? Well, what kind of foods do you not like? So I'm probably not going to load your diet down with foods you don't like. What's your life like? How many hours a week do you work? When do you train? Like, you have to have a sense of a person's schedule, the pressure they're under, because that stuff can all impact, their ability to train hard and recover. So a really well thought out questionnaire is a great place to start. And you start there, and then you can start to think about what makes sense for this person. Cookie cutter nutrition diets are just bogus. Like, that's just a bogus thing. And so that's where I start. It's let me find out everything I can about this person, so that when I'm building their program, people, it's funny because people get back their program for their diet from me, their meal plan, and they're like, oh, wow, these are the foods I told you I liked, and you don't have any of the bad stuff on here. Like, usually I just get, just eat chicken and rice. I'm like, yeah, that's the way it should be. But it's funny because people are surprised by that because they're so used to a really low level of service. And, that's fundamental stuff. And then as you go, so you have to understand more basics. How are people feeling? Is their strength going up? Is their strength going down? Are they recovering? Are they not recovering? Let's say they're not recovering. Okay, now you have another set of questions you have to ask. How are you sleeping? What's your stress levels like? What's your family life like? Are you under a lot of pressure? Are you getting your peri-workout nutrition in? So it's like a fact-finding mission. You ask one question, and depending on the answer you get, you remember those Choose Your Adventure books where you could pick, like, if you want to go here, go to this page, and if you want to go here, go to that page.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how, and I love those books. And that's kind of how I look at it. Like, you ask a question and they give you an answer. So then you go to another set of questions, and you have to get really good at that to understand where the person is and what's going on in their life and where they're at. And that kind of gives you a construct of what you should be doing. And then also, Ken, listen, I'm not God, so I make mistakes, and you have to have an open mind. You have to be humble because I have made a lot of mistakes, both myself, coaching. I've been doing this for many years, and some of the best lessons I've learned are from the mistakes I've made. There's been times where I probably pushed people too hard. There's been times where I didn't push them hard enough. I didn't give them enough credit. I've made mistakes on both ends of that spectrum. There's times when I took a mentality of, I'm going to treat everybody equal because I felt like that was the right approach, because that's how I see people do it on TV. well, I treat everybody the same, but really it takes an individualized approach. And that's what I learned over the years was, for example, basic communication. There's some people I can beat them up and be hard on, and they thrive on that. There's some people that I can't. It knocks them down. It doesn't build them up. They don't respond well. So the more you get to know someone on a personal level, the more effective your coaching can become, because the more comfortable they get talking to you and sharing information, they'll give you good information. Like, for example, if they think, well, he's going to bite my head off if I told him I went out and had, a piece of cake last night. Or if they believe in you and you have a good relationship, they might say, hey, John, I got to tell you this, man. I did this. And I can go, okay, I understand. Well, here's what we're going to do now. So I think establishing that relationship with people really, really takes you a long way. And as I've coached over the years, Ken, that's the one thing I like to tell the young people is you will not believe how much better your coaching is when the relationship with that person is better, when they're not just a number to you, when they're more than a number to you, when they feel like, man, I feel like I'm his only client. When they feel like that, you'll talk more, you'll communicate better, the information you get will be better, then you can give better instructions. So that's really big too. You can't replace in-person training, but the reality is you can't always be in the same someplace with people. Like, if you do it at my level, you just can't. You do a lot of stuff remotely, and what I try to do is I try to have people fly in, or I go see them. Depends on what's going on. So you do get to see them. You try to do that as much as you can, but I think in that relationship takes you a long way.
I agree. And my whole purpose of doing these summits is, how do you build professional relationships that may lead to a referral? At the very beginning when I started, I was like, how do you build, professional referrals, and relationships? And talking to different people, they said, you know what? The relationship is the most important. And it may or may not lead to a referral, but I mean, from a business standpoint, it's always important. How do you get business? How do you get business? And part of it is just, number one, just be a nice person. Number two, be authentic. Like, I mean, a lot of patients come in and they say, I explain what I'm going to do. And I'm up front. I said, listen, if I'm able to help you, I'll let you know. If I'm not able to help you, I'll let you know that too. And I'll refer you on to someone. And a lot of times I'll refer out because it may need a surgical intervention, or there may be someone that has a better technique than I. So I have no problem referring, and when I tell people I'm doing these, presentations, and, I ask them, I'm going to be interviewing John Meadows, and I'm like, oh, awesome. Wouldn't it be great to get a referral from John Meadows? Oh my God, it'd be awesome. So what does it take to get a referral of a client? Maybe they're in a different city and they need someone in person. What are your standards that you're looking for in an individual that you would say, you know what, I feel comfortable, you're in good hands with this person, go for it?
Yeah, number one, man, is here's how I think about referrals. It's a reflection on me. So if I send somebody to a knucklehead, guess who looks like a knucklehead? I do. So it better be somebody I believe in. I had a real interesting one happen. It was about 2 months ago. So I have a girl, Missy Truscott. She's Miss International. She's #1 in the world.
Wow.
And she told me she was getting ready to have carpal tunnel surgery and surgery on one of her pronators. So I said, well, before you do that, let me have you talk to somebody I know. It was Dr. Serrano.
Oh, good.
So I didn't try to diagnose it myself. That's beyond the scope of my knowledge. So she got on a FaceTime call with Dr. Serrano, who did me a favor, and he did some things with her lat, and her carpal tunnel pain went away, and her elbow pain went away. And then instead of having surgery the next day or two, she's healed from the stuff he showed her. She's healed. He had her husband do some stuff with her lat, and it fixed her. And that's a great example of someone that I believe in, that I know is going to do a nice job. And really, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to someone The problem is always the network. Like, I'm always trying to understand the network and where people are, because there's not a lot of people. Like, I don't know doctors in every city, for example. There's only so many people I know. But I mean, that's kind of really what it boils down to for me, Ken. It's somebody, and then once they have good results, it's okay. This is a great person to refer people to. Now I'm just going to start pumping people to them. So, that's kind of how I do it. The other thing is it's a referral of a referral. If I said, hey, Eric Serrano, do you have somebody that can do X or Y? And he goes, yeah, sure. And if he gives me somebody, then that's another layer to our network that I think is important. If someone said to me, do you know anybody that works on the chiropractors? Then, well, your name's going to come up. I don't know if you can go talk to Ken. I don't know what you're going to do, what you can do, but that's going to happen. And so for me, it's about the people I've met, it's the network, and it's about trust. And if someone burns me one time, they're not going to get any more referrals from me. But if they do a nice job, I'm going to start sending people their way all the time. And the other part, okay, there's a skill proficiency, but it's how do they treat people? And you mentioned being a good person. I don't do business with people that are, pardon my language, but are just turds. I don't like to send people to other people who are cocky and arrogant.
Right.
I want people to feel like they're taken care of. Now that's short-sighted on my part. It may be, but I don't want someone coming back to me and saying, man, he treated me bad. Why'd you send me to him? He treated me like, he was a jerk. So skilled, knowledgeable, proficient people that are good people will always be the route I send people.
Yeah. I think it's so important that trainers really understand that, because, I get a number of times a personal trainer or strength coach will come into my clinic and drop off cards and say, can you have Dr. Kinakin just refer everyone to me? And number one, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. I don't know how you apply it. And so it's really hard. So it's, if we can sort of build that relationship and understanding. And even more important for me is that I need to know that you're really, really good at one thing. I've said too many people, especially the younger trainers, because you just haven't been around long enough to understand the nuances to get someone to a high level, especially when you're dealing, I deal with a lot of world champions and high level athletes, and even not even that, just moms and pops and kids that they really want to excel in whatever they're doing. And so you mentioned that when you get into it, you get obsessed. And with football, how many seminars did you go to for football?
Oh, I've done 49 clinics this year already.
which is what you need. In order to be outstanding, you need to do outstanding things. I've seen I love muscle testing. You've seen me do it. And, I've been to 120 David Leaf seminar weekends. I told David that, and, and David goes, and David well enough. He says, well, either I'm really good or you're really stupid. I go, I'll go with the former. But that's what it takes, because, I'll hear the same thing from David, but from a different perspective. And when you deal with high level people, you can't pick everything up. To spend a weekend with you, oh my God, it's like drinking out of a fire hose for you to basically, get all that information. Or Dave Tate, or JL, or a Matt Wenning, or, Eric Serrano. You spend time with him, it's like, where the hell did you get that? And he's got 3 papers to back himself up. So the whole focus is that, we need to level up. And do you find the same thing, that trainers and strength coaches need to create a niche, but also what does it take to become outstanding in this industry?
So one of the challenges I see, Ken, is I see a lot of the guys coming in, in my world coaching, and they try to know everything. They try to just be, I'm all knowledgeable. I know everything. I might have someone, let's say someone asks them, I have scapular winging. How do I fix that? So they go to Google and they're like, okay, scapular winging. What do I do here? Rather than saying, you know what, I'm not the right guy for that, but I'll find someone who is. I had a girl I met at an event 2 weeks ago that's 17 years old, and she's squatting 400 pounds.
Oh my God.
And I saw it on her videos. And she showed me her videos on Instagram, and she was legitimately squatting 400 pounds with perfect form. So she asked me about her career, and her mom was with her. And I think a lot of guys in my position would have said, you need to come train with me. I can help you. Do you know what I said? I said, you got to talk to Dave Tate.
Yeah.
Like, I have got to connect you with Dave Tate. Dave Tate is the expert in this. So I think, to answer your question, Ken, the first thing you have to do as a coach is really, truly humble yourself and figure out what it is you do know. And you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know everything I know about bodybuilding and Dave knows about in JL and the guy Matt Winning in Serrano. Like, in fact, you're not going to know everything they know. That's impossible. So you got to get good at something, though. You know, I'd rather you be really good at one thing than be kind of mediocre at 20 things. You know, so get really, really good at something. Dive into it. Just put all your heart and passion into it. And then the things that are outside the scope of that, find people who are great at that and build your network. Like, it sounds simple, but there's so many guys in particular that are so ego driven, that are so scared to say, you know what, I'm really not sure. I don't have a good answer on that. But you know what? I'll do that. If I even have any hesitation, hey, you know what? That's beyond my scope of knowledge. Let me send you to somebody who knows.
Yeah. You know, it's so important to know you have to have boundaries. You have to know your scope of practice and what you're really good at, and also what you're passionate about. Like, I mean, that's part of it. What people pick up is your enthusiasm, your passion for different things that you truly enjoy, and it just comes out, you know. So, and that's a lot of people are looking for what's the fad and what will work, you know, as far as from a business perspective. Problem being is that it'll probably also go away in a very short period of time. We see that with media. You know, you've been around long enough. When I first started Swiss, we started with VHS tapes, sending those out. And then it went to DVDs. And then it went to online. And then it went to HTML, you know, streaming. So I'm sending the same information out 4 different ways in only 20 years. We've gone from LP records, and that was destroyed literally within about, I don't know, 3 years. And all of a sudden cassettes were big, and then that went away, and then CDs, and then that went away, and now it's just online. So the main thing is that find what is working for yourself, but the passion. What are some strategies that you found? I have different ways of looking at different things, but for a trainer or a strength coach or a health professional, to find that passionate thing that, you know, what really fires them up. What are some strategies that you would recommend for those people?
Well, I think you got to try a lot of different things. You know, I think some people get kind of this idea that they want to do something because it looks cool. And then then maybe they get into it, maybe they don't, but it just kind of maybe looks cool. So they go down that path. And then they figure out, I mean, this is okay. You know, like in what I do, there's the potential to make a lot of money, for example. So there'll be young guys come in and say, well, I just want to make a lot of money. So then they'll coach, but they're not really into it. They're doing the cookie cutter plans. They're doing all those kinds of things that you don't really want to happen. And, you know, you come to a point where you really know deep down inside what's driving you. Do you really love what you're doing? Or is it just a placeholder that's getting you by until you actually really do figure out what you want to do? And it's okay to have placeholders. It's okay to say, you know, I don't know that I want to do this forever, but it's okay for now. But you know what I will do? I'll continue to try to find what it is I am passionate about. And then on my side, I'll pour my heart, like football coaching, for example. You know what? I'm not at the level I want to be at. But when I'm not coaching people and I'm not running my supplement company, or doing something with my family, every single ounce of free time I'm going to have, I'm going to put into becoming a better coach. And it's like that. I'm passionate about that. It's, hey, you got to experiment. You got to see, you got to try different things. You know, I remember when I went to college, they said, well, 90% of people change their major after 2 years. And I was like, that's not me. I'm going in sports medicine. No one's going to change my mind.
Oh, really? You were going to go to sports medicine? I didn't know that.
Well, I love the idea of sports medicine. And so I completed 3 years in it. And I took all the classes. Like I took like anatomy, kinesiology, physiology of exercise. I did all that in one semester. And they were like, you're nuts. But I was like, you don't understand. I love this stuff. So I took my 4 years worth of courses in 3 years. but after 3 years, you know what I did? I said, this isn't for me.
Wow. That's great. That is really good.
And I just said, this isn't for me. I'm just, nothing wrong with this. That's not I don't believe that's the route I want to take. So I changed my major just like how everybody else changes their majors, 90%. And so, you may have an idea what you want to do. It may change. If it changes, that's okay. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. But experiment, do different things. I almost opened a gourmet coffee shop up in 1996, Ken. The only reason I didn't is because it was so intimidating to me to be a 24-year-old business owner. Like, I wasn't a seasoned businessman, so I just was intimidated by that. Now I got to deal with payroll, employee issues, the distribution chain, like all these things that just seemed overwhelming to me. So I didn't follow through with it. I thought it was my passion, but it wasn't strong enough in me for me to say, well, you know what? I'm uncomfortable with those things, but I'm going to overcome them anyway. So, the passion wasn't strong enough. As much as I love coffee and the coffee business, and the profit margin on an espresso-based beverage, I had to move on. So I think it's important that people really experiment, try different things. You're going to find something that you really enjoy.
I agree.
And then, man, it just comes down to, what are you going to put into it? It's up to you.
Yeah.
What are you going to put into it?
I agree. You know what? I'm always curious as far as with this. You're one of the top bodybuilding coaches in the world. You can't even fill up two hands with all the top people, and you're one of them. When you have people that want to go into bodybuilding and they're at a regional level and they're trying to make national, and, I talked to Scott Stevenson this morning. We discussed that, to the nth degree, as far as, the genetics, the ability, the hormonal reception, all of this and what it actually takes. Like, I just have so many patients that are coming in. They go, I want to become a IFBB pro. And I go, do you know what that takes? And also what's going to happen? Because you're going to get to the top of amateur, and then you're going to be at the bottom of the pro. What does it take in order, if someone is a novice, what does it take in order to be at a national level? And then from a national level to become an IFBB pro and to become really good, to basically make, top 10, say in the Olympia or even at a national show. Because, just like business, when you first start out, it's one aspect. And then as you start to grow, you got to bring in different people. You bring in HR, you bring in, different people, managers and everything else. So the growth of the business changes as you do. And I think it's very similar with bodybuilding. Is that what you've seen? Or are we just dealing with genetic mutants that just show up and literally in a very short period of time they take over? Or is it both?
Well, so the two things I want to touch on here. One of them is there used to be a clear path back in the 90s and the 2000s. You did a local show, you did a state show, you did a regional show, but you kind of worked your way up. In other words, you didn't win the Miss Local City show and then go straight to nationals. That was a good way to get your butt kicked. So there was a clear path. There was a local show, a state show, a junior national level show, then a national level show. There was a path. The path is a little blurred now, and the reason why is there's so many people that want to do it overnight. I get so many people, it would shock you, that'll message me and say, hey, John, I want to be an IFBB pro, and I think I can do it. And I'm like, okay, cool. How many shows have you won? What did you win? Well, I've never competed. I'm like, but there is a path, that I think logically you follow, that allows you to work your way up. And I also think this, sometimes the best teachings is when you get your butt kicked. And, for me, the first time I went to nationals, there were 42 guys in my class and only the top 15 make the finals. And I wasn't in the top 15. I got my butt kicked.
Wow.
But you know what it did? It helped me realize I'm not as good as I thought I was. There's another level to this that I'm not at. So I went back to the drawing board and said, listen, winning the Mr. Ohio didn't really help me at the nationals. I got to get a lot better. Now, you mentioned the other thing, genetics. So when most people think of genetics, they think of their structure, the width of their clavicles, their pelvic girdle, is it narrow? How do muscle bellies tie in together? There's another set of genetics that matter too. One of them is in your heart. Can you do what it takes to get down to 4% body fat? When you're tired, when you're sitting on the couch and you have to pee, and you literally say, I can't even get up to pee. I'm just going to sit here and hold it as long as I can because I'm so tired. Can you handle that? Can you handle that? When you can barely stay awake because you're so tired from dieting, can you handle that? When the pain sets in, when you're training, but your training partner says, sorry, you need to do 10 more reps. Can you get those reps? So there is a genetic factor called heart. That is really important. It's really important. And guess what, Ken? That's the genetics that I had. I didn't have the wide clavicles. I didn't have the narrow pelvic girdle, but you know what I had? I had heart. And heart can take you a long, long way. Now, there's other genetic components. How well does your body respond to training? The fact of the matter is, like it or not, some people just respond better to training than others. It's just a fact. I could give two people the same program, have them eat the same thing, and one guy is probably going to do better than the other. That's just a fact. How much food can people eat, utilize, and digest? You know, you can take all the digestive enzymes and probiotics and prebiotics and whatever else you want to take. Some people can only eat so much food. Some people can only utilize and digest so much food. How about the response to drugs? I can take two people. They can take the same amount of drugs, and one guy can absolutely blow up, and the other guy barely even looks like he did anything. It's just a fact. How people respond to training, to chemicals. How do people recover? You can put two people through the same workout. One of them's crippled the next day. The other guy goes, that was cool. Can we do it again? Right? So how do you respond to all these things? And the fact of the matter is, again, I'm sorry I keep repeating that. It's just
no, keep doing it.
It's just reality. It's just reality. It's not, I'm not being an honest person. If I tell every single person that comes to me for training, oh yeah, you're going to be a pro, because the fact of the matter is, I know some of those people won't. You know, I just know they won't. So you got to be very honest with them. You know, forget being a pro. Let's just get you to be the best you can possibly be. Hey, we'll see what happens. You know, we'll see what happens. So there's different genetic components. There's how much heart do you have? There's how do you respond to chemicals? How do you respond to training? You know, how do your joints hold up? Can you handle heavy training, or is your body going to break down? And if your body breaks down, are you smart enough to know how to adjust your training to compensate for that? So those are some of the things, Ken, that kind of jump out off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that people respect that. And, you know, I think you also, I think you've always been really humble. You also understand that what it actually takes to get onto the Olympia stage. Most people have no idea. Like, I mean, it is one of the most difficult things that anyone could do, because, and it's not just the training, it's just the dieting. It's just, you know, and how to make it through the day, you know, when you're dieting and not, you know, kill everyone. Because, I mean, you're just so on edge, you know, and everything. And unfortunately, and I think you've seen this, and we talked about this on the Swiss panels, is that everyone just figures that more drugs is better. And I'm like, no, there is a point of diminishing returns. You know, it's not just another super drug or peptide or, you know, and it's just getting, are you seeing that it's getting more and more out of control?
Yes and no. Yes, there are some coaches who think that's the answer, but I will say this. I've seen a renewed interest in health from some of the coaches out there. So now people are a little bit more of aware. Well, man, maybe I should watch my blood pressure. Maybe that is a big deal. Maybe I should look at my AST and ALT after I do a cycle of orals, or, you know, maybe I need to look at my GFR for my kidneys. You know, maybe I need a calcium score test to see if I got any calcification in my arteries building up for my heart. So I think there is a group of coaches that are, I think, doing a pretty good job of trying to keep people healthy. And then I think there's still some coaches that, no, it's just the more chemicals you can pump in you, the better. So, but I am very happy to see it seems like coaches are getting a little bit better and more educated. Now, at the end of the day, back to the previous conversation we had, we're not cardiologists. So it's not, okay, send me your echocardiogram results and I'm going to diagnose it for you and tell you, no, you need to see a cardiologist. And it goes back to the trust thing. Now, how many cardiologists actually kind of understand what we're doing, what we're going through, and, things like that. But you can kind of tie in medical people to help you stay healthy. One of my friends works with a kidney specialist just to make sure his kidneys are good. And a couple of my friends work with cardiologists that are pretty knowledgeable about bodybuilding. So, but just in general, to answer your question, I think it's probably 50-50, Ken. You still got the crazy wackos out there, but there is a little bit more education, which is encouraging to see.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that. And I also seeing that new class that opened up, the physique, where there's a height and weight restriction, which really basically will mitigate, it'll decrease the amount of pharmacology that a number of these individuals will use, just because you can't outgrow your weight class, your height class. So I think that's been also, and it's gotten back to a classic physique. You still have the big Rammies and everything else, but you're getting back to Chris, the guy who won the physique,
Bumstead,
yeah, Blumstead. He looks unbelievable, and he's bringing back that great vacuum look, the Frank Zane look, and that is actually more achievable, because when you meet these guys, personally,
feeding.
Yeah, when you meet these people personally, they're not that big. They're not. They fit in clothes. They're not freaky.
Well, the guy that got second to him, Terrence, is a client of mine, and he weighed around 180 pounds.
Yeah, yeah, you can't be that big at 180.
Right.
But you look phenomenal, and I think that's the key. Bigger is not necessarily better, and a lot of people think that it is, but it's just trying to bring in that look, which is really, really difficult, to try and present, in that. For the different trainers and the strength coaches and all that, what advice would you give them as far as on how to rebuild their business, especially if they've been really struggling?
Well, we're feeding my dog here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, give him that. And then put a whole egg on my dog loves whole eggs.
Awesome.
Sometimes I give him sardines. He loves sardines. Okay, now no more noise. So trainers that are struggling.
The biggest thing is that how can they build relationships, and especially with health professionals?
So you have to put out the effort to find people. First of all, you have to do some research. And I've got to think about that, Ken, because I've known so many people for so long. I'm trying to think back, well, how did I do that? And I think it probably started in 1999. I went to see Serrano after trying, stop making noise. Like in 1999, I saw Serrano, and after trying for probably 2 years to get in to see him, I finally got in to see him. And then he had his network. So then I met other people. And then, Dave Tate and I are friends. So Dave has his network.
Right.
And, then I met JL, I met, I trained with Louie, so we had these networks. You meet people and they open up a network. So now you're going to laugh. Now, one of my mentors is a football coach out in California, who's one of the top offensive coaches in the nation, So now I'm kind of opening up my football network. I'm kind of starting, from scratch. And now I'm doing the same process in football. So I'm finding people that are smarter than me, that know more than I do. And I humbly approach them. I humbly talk to them. And like this guy was very, very kind, very generous with his time. And I think we had some good meetings. So now he's my mentor. Now he's very, very good at what he does. So, in terms of meeting people, you got to do your research. You got to figure out who's very respected, who's knowledgeable. And once you can kind of find a couple people like that, then you can build on it. But, what I always tell people, Ken, is just start simple. Just figure out kind of what you want to do and find somebody who's really good at it and just build a relationship with them. Just start there. Okay, I want to be a great strength coach. Okay, who are some great strength coaches? Let me see if I can build a relationship with one of them. And maybe I'm going to have to pay them to mentor me. Maybe I'm going to have to buy 1 hour sessions with them at $200 an hour, 1 hour per month. It's up to you. How much, what do you want to do? How far do you want to go? Me, like that football coach, he could have told me, John, I'm going to charge you $500 an hour. And I would have said, where do I pay? Do you want me to PayPal you? Do you want me to Venmo you? Do you want me to send you a check? Because it's that important to me to get better. So just try to figure out what it is you really like and do your research and find somebody really good. And then try to build a relationship with them. Just start there. Keep it simple. And then you'll probably, after a certain amount of time, you'll probably figure out, wow, this person has a network too. And, I think find somebody who's really good at what you want to do and just start there. They have probably made a lot of mistakes. If they're like me, I've made a lot of mistakes, and they've probably learned a lot from them. And sometimes when you're new at this, it's nice that, you kind of have to make mistakes. That's how you learn, right? When you lose a football game, it's a great opportunity to figure out what you did wrong, get better, as opposed to winning a game where you just say, well, we did everything right. But it's also nice to learn from someone else's mistakes so you don't repeat the same thing. When I was looking for a mentor for my business, I specifically went to Dave Tate, and I asked him a number of questions, and as our relationship developed business-wise, he would tell me, this didn't work, here's what happened, this didn't work. So I feel like I was able to avoid some pitfalls that I might have fallen into simply by finding someone more knowledgeable than me, better than me. Now, of course, I made a lot of mistakes too with my business, but I think my point, Ken, is just make the effort to find somebody who can really help you and just, man, dive in, just,
agree. That's the
don't
fastest
expect
way.
That's the way to do it. Be a student too. Be a student. So, like the example of the football coach that helps me. I think if I just sit around and just expect him to teach me everything, he would probably get tired of that. But when I say, hey, Sean, I was reading these things, I was studying this, what do you think about this? Now he's like, okay, this kid's trying. Like, he's trying. He wants to get better. I think people respect that. If I have someone come to me and they're saying, I was thinking about this, and this, and here's what I'm doing, and here's what I'm thinking, am I on the right path? I get more excited as a mentor than someone who says, hey, I need you to teach me how to get people in shape.
Right.
All right, well, if that's going to be your attitude, just come to me and you want me to just spoon feed you everything without you doing any thinking, I'm probably going to say, no, thank you. Find somebody else.
Right.
I want somebody who's really passionate, who's really doing their homework. That's the kind of relationships I would want. So for someone out there looking, make sure you have that mindset.
I agree so much, to try and find a mentor, to develop, different aspects that you are. And also, just yourself, this year you've done over 40 clinics yourself. So when people see that enthusiasm and that focus, they're going, yeah, this guy's all in. Chips are all in. He's willing to do it. And I think that's what we're all looking for, and we have the people there that think that they should be up on stage instead of you. And, they're not a good student. I think a lot of people don't know how to listen. They want to reaffirm their own ideas versus what can I learn from this person? And it's really interesting. All the different top strength coaches that I've been, interviewing, like Christian Thibodeau, he says he hires 2 different strength coaches a year to train him. He pays them. They get the routine and everything else. And I go, Christian, you're one of the top strength coaches. Why? He says, I can only understand their program if I actually do it, and I'm willing to pay, and everyone sees it differently. I don't have all the answers, but I do have some, and I can integrate some stuff and then put the other stuff into it. So we can be such good learners, students, and I think people have a hard time trying to be a student.
Yeah, I kind of approach, when I get around really smart people, I take the approach that I don't know anything. I just enter that conversation with I don't know anything, and then I just see where it takes me. So
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's, and you know, while your neighbor is Dr. Eric Serrano, so that makes it a little bit more humbling, you know, as far as
Yes.
his ability to put things together. John,
Yes.
thank you so much. This has been amazing. I really appreciate all the knowledge and the wisdom that you've given us. And especially over the years, you've been such a, you know, huge support for Swiss and everyone else that is out there. Are you still taking clients on?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't been able to really take anybody on this year. Like I unfortunately I've got probably a 30, 40 person waiting list right now. So,
Okay.
um,
Okay. But
yeah.
if they want to see, you know, some of your materials or your supplements, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah. So, one of the things I've really put a lot of effort into, Ken, is my YouTube.
Oh,
We started about 4 years ago doing a video every day for 90 days. Then we went to 5 days a week. And then the last 2 years, we do 3 videos a week. And we've been doing that. We have a little over 500,000 subscribers now. And we have a lot of material in there. If somebody just wants free information, training, nutrition, we have over 1,000 videos on there that's absolutely free.
wow.
On my YouTube, it's Mountain Dog One. So I think that's a good resource for people, if you're looking for a lot of valuable information. Um, and outside of that, my supplement company, Granite Supplements, I'm very, very proud of. We're in our 5th year now. Very proud of that company. Everything I do, I try to do first class. That applies to my supplements as well. Nothing cheap here. I'm not a cheap coach. My supplements aren't cheap. Nothing I do is cheap. And other than that, Ken, I think that's pretty much it. Between the coaching and the supplements and football coaching, man, I've got my hands for it now. And
Yeah.
we got a new puppy here. So I've got he's running around now. I've got a puppy. He's an American Bully.
Oh, wow.
He's let me see if I can pick him up. Let me see if I can do
Yeah.
this.
Love to see him.
Watch this. Oh, do you see?
Oh, he's a cutie. Oh my
Look at the big
gosh.
boy. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, animals are furry angels, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Unbelievable.
I spend more time on the dodo. Do you see the dodo on Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Oh
There's
my
so
God.
many great ones.
Oh man, I
So,
watch more animal videos, I think, than anything.
me too. Me too. John, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending time with us here at Swiss 2021. I'm very grateful. I know everyone watching this also is, especially since your reputation precedes you. And you're just such a nice, authentic, you know, individual, you know, even as the ultimate warrior comes out at times. But the whole thing is that, you know, you're very focused, you're authentic, and you really know what it takes in order to rise to the best, and you are one of the best. So I thank you. I hope, you know, the borders open up soon. We can run Swiss whatever. I'm not sure if it'll be this year, you know, just with what's going on. The border is still closed, but love to have you back up here at the live Swiss Symposium when we do it again.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be phenomenal. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks so much, John.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.